Oh yeah, baby. We're gonna get intimate on this session of freedom from alcohol. Um, is that making anybody else uncomfortable? It made me a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest with you, to get
Awesome.
my late night DJ sexy radio voice going here. But it is freedom from alcohol. You found the right podcast, but we're gonna delve into an interesting area this week, and I think it's a really interesting area that a lot of people think about, especially after quitting drinking. That's intimacy. And we just had an intimacy coach on. Her name is Rena Martin. She just has a book that just came out. She's amazing. Look her up. She's awesome. But we had her come on to one of our group calls in our Freedom from Alcohol coaching program recently, and it was really, really cool, just eye-opening because it's one of those topics where we all kind of are thinking about it in the back of our head, but we don't really talk about it because for whatever reason, it's kind of uncomfortable to talk about intimacy and sex and all this kind of stuff. But look, we're all adults here, so let's get into it. My name is Chris, by the way. Thank you for being here. Lauren and Matt here too. How are you guys?
Hey,
Good,
hey,
good. See
Ready
you
to talk
guys.
about sex?
Oh,
let's
of
talk
course.
about sex, baby.
Yeah.
It
Hit it,
is.
Matt. What's the next line? Come on.
Let's talk about A, B, C.
Nope,
Ooh,
you and me.
All the
close.
good things and the bad things.
Oh, there you
Sex,
go. He's
let's
breaking it down.
Yeah,
talk
exactly.
about sex.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sex.
Yeah.
A little salt and pepper for you there. You probably didn't expect to hear that today as well, but no, it is. Let's talk about. We were just doing a team meeting and some sexual stuff came up, not like that, but just because
Yeah.
we talk about certain things, and so we said let's talk about that on our podcast today. And I'm gonna kind of sit back on this one because I'm definitely not an expert, and I'm gonna throw it to you guys, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in at the end. So who
Yeah.
wants to talk about intimacy first? Matt, Lauren, what do you want to do?
Go
Oh,
ahead,
yeah.
Matt.
I'll throw my
Yeah,
2 cents in there for, and
yeah.
same thing. By no means an expert. I'll just speak to my own experience, right? Which I guess in that sense I am an expert. Uh, so yeah, for sure. My wife and I have been together close to 18 years,
Nice.
and we've been sober or alcohol free specifically for I'm coming up on 5, and she'll be 4 years. So if you can do the math, we were very much a party couple for the majority still of our relationship. And when we met, I would say, I think she was like 19, I was 24, something like that. So pretty, young to be getting together. And it was very much based on like, alcohol. Like straight from the days of high school, I could not talk to the opposite sex without having a few drinks because I was the shyest guy you could imagine. As soon as a girl would talk to me, I'd go beat red and run away. Maybe not run, but I walked very quickly.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
so by the time we were connecting, it was always in the bar after work, right? Because we worked together. And so that was our connection point. And our intimacy, of course, grew from, tempering our nerves around each other by having a few drinks. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, now I don't feel this like nervousness that I've always had. When I was younger, I just never really learned how to deal with that without alcohol. So that was like our first 13 years. We were like the party couple. So as a result, living sort of that rock and roll lifestyle, there was a lot of our sex life was very active and very much, like I guess
Attaboy.
kill me for saying this, very much like open, like experimental porno style, I guess, right? Loud music, doing all the drugs
Okay,
and
she
the
is gonna kill you. All right.
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
no,
I'll
it's
let you
no, this
know.
is good.
we'll be talking this. Sorry, Darcy.
Go Matt. Oh, all
Yeah.
right.
So that's how it was for years. Very just like we were, getting experimental with it, and that was fun and all that. And then fast forward to when we're removing alcohol, and it's strange, man. It
Mm,
was like um all of a sudden we're like shy around each other. We've done
Yeah.
all this crazy stuff to each other, right? And with each other and so forth. And then it's like all of a sudden we're like shy. And I'm like, it's the arrested development, the fact that I never learned how to do that ever. Not once. So now it's like me relearning how to do that. And as far as I'm concerned, like healthy masculinity is like making the people around me feel safe, and especially her feeling safe, right? And there was this like recklessness that there was there before. And so it's like, man, rebuilding that. And then the coach that we had on, the intimacy coach from a couple of weeks ago, said something that really hit me, specifically about Darcy. And it was like, ladies that use alcohol for like, to sort of ease into sexual relations, 75% of them or something like that have some kind of sexual dysfunction if they're and I imagine it's the same for guys, because definitely for me as well, right? So I was like, oof, man, I came out of that feeling a mixture of like empowered because I had a lot more knowledge and kind of sad actually about just like, holy shit, there's a lot of work that still can be done, and we obviously will choose to do that. So yeah, I say that to say it's like, yeah, it's been kind of a challenging road for the last, specifically the last 3 or 4 years, rebuilding that, and getting comfortable with ourselves and our needs, just even realizing like what my needs are independent of having like drugs and alcohol in my system. Like, what do I actually like? The sex looks very different now. It's like the sex we used to make fun of. We're like, that's such lame, like intimate, like, it's getting super intimate and like blah blah slow motion, man, like the stuff you see.
Missionary position. Come on.
Missionary.
I just
So
put it all
vanilla,
over my computer. Sorry.
right? I was like, oh, it's so vanilla. Like, we'd
Yeah.
never do. And then like now that's what we're doing, and it's just like, oh, okay, well,
Now
shoot,
we're
I guess
making love.
we're
Oh,
making
yeah.
love. Yes, Barry. What's the guy's name? Barry White. We've got some
Yeah. Yeah.
some of that in the background instead of like whatever else we had. So that's our. You don't want to be open about it.
No
That
more
was,
ball gags. No more,
well, I mean, don't get it too
oh,
carried
okay.
away,
All
Okay.
right.
right?
Cut him off,
Different
because I'm
context,
not
though.
dealing with his wife. When cut him off. He's
So
done.
yeah,
We'll get
that's I mean, that's about as far as I
But
want to go with that.
yeah,
So
no,
now
it's good stuff.
yeah, TMI perhaps, but yeah, no, that's where it is with us.
Yeah. It's just so funny. Like, well, why it is kind of this weird, like I'm blushing, but it's everybody does it. I mean, we're talking, why not? Let's just talk about it because it can be kind of awkward, but let's make it a little bit less awkward by talking about it, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
Lauren, what about for you? I mean, from your
I love it.
perspective.
I've been looking at you this whole time and you're bright red. I was bright red before we started the show, and now Matt's bright red. He knows he's in trouble. He's fucked.
Hmm.
Anyway, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to use that word. Oh
In the
well.
good way, or yeah, it depends.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Hey,
Good point. Very good point.
50-50. But before we started this, I was yelling at these two gentlemen that because there's a lot that goes into alcohol and there's a lot that goes into intimacy, and alcohol fuels it, but it also makes it a lot different. But in speaking to my patients in the past as a nurse practitioner in women's health, speaking to men and women out and about, people don't really talk about sex, but when they do, it's very, they're not telling the truth because it's embarrassing. It makes you turn red, whatever. But so I'm going to hit this from 2 points as far as alcohol and its connection with intimacy, sex, whatever. So for me in my relationship, alcohol really fueled the intimacy because I was always getting drunk. And if I was drunk, sure, I want to have sex. But to your point, Matt, a lot of women who are drinking and having sex are unable to climax, even with the extras. Like, we know that women don't particularly mostly have an orgasm with just penetration. They need some other type of stimulation going on. But even with all of that going on, let's say you have that all planned out, like you guys know what you're doing in the bedroom, the woman knows what she's doing, the man knows what he's doing. Alcohol can mess up an orgasm for a man or a woman. And so that's the first thing. I was having sex for years and years without orgasms because I couldn't have one. And I knew it. So like, I knew that because I'd been drinking that it was going to be out of the question for me. So I would just be like, yeah, we can do this, but we're not going to worry about me. Right. So for us, oh God, I can't even believe I just said all this because honest to God, now my freaking in-laws are going to hear this. Jeez, Lord. All right.
They have sex too. It's okay, right?
They have to, or he wouldn't be here, right?
Exactly.
So, you know, getting to a space where now I've been sober for a little bit more than 3.5 years. First of all, we had to learn how to have sex without me being drunk because I was same thing, Matt, just very shy and didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to act because I'd never had to. Like, I was always on autopilot, and
Right.
you're not really in charge of how you're acting or feeling when you're drunk anyway, or even just buzzed. So a lot of things had to change for us. And for us, it was a lot of communication. And so what I talk with my patients, with my clients, is communication. It's like the best thing you can do. It's like, hey, guess what? I don't know how to do this without being drunk, but now that I'm sober, we have to figure this out. So help me help you. I don't know. So having those conversations, and then having conversations about like, hey, what actually works for me? Because nothing was working for me before. And I was just kind of doing this to do it. I was drunk. You wanted it. Great. Whatever. Now let's figure out what I need to make me as happy as you are in the bedroom. So that's kind of what we've been working on. And then we help our clients with it too. I mean, that's why we brought on an intimacy expert, because there's so many questions. It's almost as taboo as having conversations about alcohol problems. Talking about sex problems and what's going on in the bedroom is always very, very, we're not just going to open up about it and have conversations with anybody. But yeah, that's kind of my take. And I may have missed some things, but again, we're a work in progress here in the Howman house, because we can, because we've decided to focus on that in our relationship and build our relationship, because for years we were arrested because not all of us were even present. So
Yeah.
one of the things we do as sober coaches is help people rebuild other parts of their lives now that alcohol is out. So, and this is one of them. So we got to start talking about the things that are uncomfortable. And I'm red right now. There you go.
Yeah, well, it is. It's one of those things. It takes a lot of vulnerability even to just talk about this subject, but it's something that needs to be talked about, because I think if you're listening to this podcast and maybe you're still drinking and you're fearful of, oh God, how am I going to be able to get intimate with my partner or anybody without being a little lubed up from the alcohol because you've been relying on it for so long? I totally get that. It is one of those things that we get used to, but I've noticed in mine and my wife's relationship, we both used to also drink all the time and rarely had sex unless we had a little buzz or something like that. But since we both are alcohol free, I've really noticed not just the sex part, but like our communication has really gotten drastically better. We don't, I mean, we just lay everything out on the table, and it's not as awkward as it used to be. When we were drinking, we would avoid some certain topics and how we would feel, and it would just never get discussed. And you could feel that bubbling up. You know that it's there. Neither one of you are talking about these things. So you just drink and then you hope that it goes away, and it doesn't. When you stop drinking, you're kind of forced to deal with these things. And not just from the intimacy aspect of it. When you stop drinking, you are forced to deal with your shit. You have to tackle it. You have to look at it head on. There's no more running or hiding. But I think that's really liberating, right? And so same thing when it comes to intimacy and, you know, having that communication open and just being there for each other. Like it probably is going to be a little bit awkward for a little while going from drinking and being intimate to not drinking and not. Like I'm not going to lie to you and say that's going to be magical and better right away, because it's probably not. It's
Mm.
going to take an adjustment, but I think you're going to look back on it and go, it's worth that weirdness, that awkwardness in the beginning, because now, my wife and I, when we are intimate, it just feels deeper. It feels better. It feels more connected. We're not just doing it because we're drunk. Like she's able to, enjoy herself, we'll say, better because she's fully, sober or whatever. Um, and so, yeah, again, I don't know. Everybody's going to be a little bit different with that, but I will tell you, it is better. Like in our relationship, the intimacy is way better than it was. I got to tell you, if neither one of us stopped drinking, we would probably be headed towards either a divorce or just not really. We were going further apart with the alcohol, and getting rid of the alcohol helped us come closer together. There's no doubt about it. Now our relationship is way stronger than it ever was. So, you have something on that, Matt?
I love that let's identify the fact that intimacy can mean many different things, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Darcy and
Not
I
just
Put that
sex.
down.
Yep.
right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. We're on the same wavelength, Lauren.
Yeah.
All of us, by the sounds of it. And that is, to me, absolutely, the intimacy that I have with Darcy now is far more nuanced and beautiful and three-dimensional, like we've talked about before, on as every other aspect of my life is. And that one component that we're talking specifically about, as we're all turning red, is sex today. And that one is, the work in progress for the reasons I mentioned. But yeah, it's definitely important to say that the intimacy shows up in many, many different forms than just the physical act of, having sex as well. So yeah, just you saying that, I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wrote that down too, because I think that a lot of times men and women feel a lot differently about intimacy. So I was having a conversation with a client the other day, and it's like, this was a female, and it's like, well, I like snuggling, but I don't want to have sex every time I snuggle. And so what we're talking about here is the pressure that's put on a woman, whether it's in her mind or not, whether it's actually a thing or if she's imagining this story, that let's say you're snuggling and you're a woman and you're the small spoon. Well, now you feel something kind of growing against your hiney. You're feeling something, on
Heyo.
the side. Yeah. And that's a natural thing for a male, but that doesn't mean that you have to have sex. And so, like, if you're struggling with intimacy, especially like for the man, just know that just because you get an erection does not mean that you have to do something about it. And as a woman, if you're feeling that, it doesn't mean you have to do something about it. I think a lot of people, a lot of women are conditioned into a space where they do feel like that's the thing. Like, I don't know, guys, the blue ball things, like, give me a break. Stop. I'm not doing that anymore. Um, I understand it may not be comfortable, but it is never anybody else's responsibility to take care of your body. Even if you're married to that person, there's still a thing about consent, timeliness. Look, if that were the case, then you'd have to have sex every morning because most men are waking up with an erection, at least, most of the time. But for women, let's say she just wants to cuddle, and that for her is the intimacy that she's really craving. Make it so that it's okay that maybe the man has an erection and you don't have to do anything about that and take it further. Because women get into a space where I think they start to kind of run away from the man because it always feels like they're making an advance on them. It always feels like they're looking for sex. If I hold your hand, are you going to think that you need to take it a little further? If we're cuddling, does that mean we're going to have sex? So remembering that they're two different things. And then the other point I wanted to make that I'm seeing a lot in clients is that, sorry guys,
No, I think this is a really good discussion, actually. So
yeah. So if you're in a space where you're not having any sex at all because you're not even really speaking anymore, I've got a lot of people who are just roommates with their spouse, whether it be a man or a woman. And the first step is honestly communication, but also give that other person time. If you're the drinker and they're just sick of your shit, like altogether, they've been done with you for a minute and nothing about you is attractive to them anymore because they're just mad at you. They resent you. You're not putting in all the effort you should be because you're drinking, whatever's going on. Give that other person space and time to be able to come back to you and be able to love you again or treat you a little differently. It's not like that magic. What you said is like, I'm going to quit drinking and then tomorrow everything's going to be beautiful rainbow and glitters. It's going to take a lot of time and effort to bring things back. So don't expect a lot of men, especially, quit drinking when their wives are like they're done. They're like, either you stop drinking or I'm out of here. And they stop drinking and then they're like, oh, look what I did. Aren't you proud of me? Don't you love me now? Don't you want to like hop back in bed with me? And that's what they want. But the woman's going to need a lot more before that's going to happen. There's a lot of repairing that needs to be done. We've got to rebuild this whole relationship, fix all the moats and the dams and the bridges and all of that before anything's going to be going on there. On the other side, that can also happen where the man can be completely just turned off by his wife because she's just a hot, sloshy mess. And I was one of those. And there were times where my husband was like, oh no, not touching with a 10-foot pole because you're too big of a mess right now. And that's really unattractive. So anyway, there's a lot that goes into this and there's so many different things we could go off on. But it's another topic with sobriety that people are very nervous about. Like, how do you have sex without drinking? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, it does take time, just like with anything. But I really think it all comes down to communication, being honest with your partner. Because if you're hiding your drinking, if you're hiding parts of you from your partner, man, it's hard to be intimate with somebody that you're not being fully honest with. And one of the best things about removing alcohol from your life, at least in my case and many of our clients' cases, is you have that opportunity to really kind of start with a clean slate. And you know what? I want to be really honest about everything. Here's how I feel. Here's what I've been holding back from you. And let's just lay it all on the table. And I think that goes a long way if in maybe rebuilding that intimacy in a relationship. So yeah, there are so many different avenues and lanes we could go down this. But just if you're listening to this and you think it's going to be too awkward or too weird, the intimacy part, it may be at the beginning, but if you go through the process, it can be a beautiful thing, um, you know, down the road. So I think we've covered a lot of good stuff here, and we'll just leave it there unless you guys have anything else you want to add to this topic. Maybe some whips and chains or some, I don't know, BDSM talk. I mean,
that'd be like, that's part two. We're gonna do the BDSM
Yeah.
conversation next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
God,
coming
no,
down.
we're not
Yeah.
going any further. I'm already in trouble. You're in trouble for freaking sure.
I may or may not be. We'll find out what kind of, if it's good trouble or.
Hey, you never know.
Hey-oh.
You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
No,
All
I
right.
think the only other point I would make is that there's nothing different about this than there is like when we talk about learning to be social in social situations without alcohol, without using that crutch.
Yeah.
It's awkward in the beginning and then we learn how to do it and it's better. It's always
Well,
better.
yeah,
Always
it all
better.
comes down to if there's something in your life that you're not sure about or you want to change, alcohol prolongs that. That's just covering it up temporarily.
Yeah.
But when you take alcohol, then it's like, okay, let's solve this. Let's figure out if, how do I become intimate with my partner without having to rely on anything? Like there's something there and I want to get there. But you'll never be able to do that as long as you stay drinking. Same thing if you are socially awkward. Guess what? You're going to always rely on alcohol when you go in social situations. Wouldn't you rather face that challenge and overcome it? And I mean, and then you feel proud of yourself. You're making progress. Your whole life can change, and that's ultimately what we want to convey in what we do with our clients. This podcast, alcohol is not helping you in any sense of the term. You really have to understand that it's fucking things up. Okay, let's call it what it is. You get your 20 minutes of fun feeling, and then the rest is shit. Okay, let's be honest about it. And that's what it comes down to. So appreciate you listening to this. We'd love your feedback, comments, reviews, all that good stuff. Please leave us a review. Please share this with people who you think would benefit from it. We want more people to be able to hear this. And if you are interested in working with us, so we can just talk all day long about sex, we'll
Right?
break that out and, make you really uncomfortable. Yeah, hit us up.
We can
Go.
all be red.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. Be all right together.
So the best way to do that is go to my website, which is coachbychris.com, and you can get a consultation call booked right there. You can see more about how we work with people. There's a free video that kind of breaks it all down. You can see client success stories, people that we've worked with. You can hear where they were at, where they're at now, and see that this really does work. If you're at the point where you've tried other things, you cannot seem to get completely free from alcohol. Man, 96% of the people that we work with have changed their relationship with alcohol, and that's massive. So if you are in that place and you keep listening to this podcast, you keep watching social media about people that have stopped drinking, you keep reading books on it, the universe is trying to tell you something. It's time that you listen. Stop ignoring that. And so whether you want to work with us or you want to do something else, a different route, do something, take that action to begin changing your relationship with alcohol, and you will not regret it. That is our promise to you. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys so much. Happy Valentine's Day. Go
Oh, it's a
have
sexy
some fun.
Valentine's Day.
Bow chicken bow wow. We got our intimacy out of the way early, so we don't have to worry about it now.
Nobody
Yeah.
wanted to know that.
Yeah. Well,
Nobody.
now you do. So
Yeah.
daytime sex, it's one of those good things you can do when you don't have to rely on alcohol. I will end it there.
Right.
Okay.
Bye,
See you
y'all.
guys.
Yeah.